In the recent debate that is surfacing in our Supreme Court about the constitutionality of the Health and Human Services mandate enacted by the Affordable Care Act in Barack Obama's administration, there has been a growing line between those who support the mandate and those who believe it is unconstitutional. The two dividing lines that hold large stakes in the ongoing debate are the women against restricting reproductive rights and the Catholic Church. The War Group is a subgroup of the larger Center for Reproductive Rights that holds many debates and is reliant on using legislation to protect the reproductive rights. Whereas the Catholic Church holds a stake in the argument because they want to reaffirm their rights to religious freedom and not provide insurance for contraceptives in their organizations because the pills are against their moral principles. Overall, the Health and Human Services mandate was not originally made to harm religious freedom, but some of its statutes do just that. I claim that Kathleen Sebelius, representative of Health and Human Services, did not make complete constitutional balances when creating the mandate. Furthermore, these religious institutions have never agreed with the concept of birth control, and the women working for those organizations were said to have known that. The Catholic Church and their organizations have a right to their own religious practices that pertain to the freedom of conscience. But if other organizations, whose religious practices would not be in violation, feel the HHS mandate would be good for them, then they could apply that to their organization. In order to be fully able to explain and construct an argument for the Catholic Church, the evidence that will help the claim will be used through the resources found on the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, and counter to that the claim responses from the Center for Reproductive Rights. On the website of the Center for Reproductive Freedom, it is very clear that women are a stakeholder in the current debate and feel that their right to reproductive freedom pays no cost to religious freedom. They have numerous articles on this website that adhere to the fact that they feel those who are for religious freedom are trying to push their convictions on them, and that in doing so oppress their right to do with their bodies what they will. Through much discussion and adherence to others' perspective, we can arrive at a conclusion that will benefit both sides. Although my allegiance is firmly towards the side of I realize that women for a very long time have used contraceptives, and being that it is a daily pill that requires a lot of money, it is safe to assume that many women are hoping that their contraceptives will be made more readily available to them through the use of insurance benefits. This has never been the case in any Catholic institution because of their moral principles. Many women who have or continue to work in Catholic organizations and institutions but are on the birth control pill were thrilled to hear the mandate would require their organization to pay for their medication. For these women, they knew that upon working in an environment that had these strong values, it would not be easy to persuade them to go against them. My proposal would require that the HHS mandate can still be enacted if it is constitutionally balanced and be used in organizations that agree with the terms. Otherwise, as in the case for the Catholic Church, it would require of an organization to pay for something that has and always will be against their moral code. The Catechism of the Catholic Church is the official teachings of the Catholic Church. It regards both the faith and morals which the Catholic Church holds to be true and outlines the practices in the faith. In the Catechism it states, it aims at a deeply personal unity, a unity that, beyond union in one flesh, leads to forming one heart and soul. It demands indissolubility and faithfulness and definitive mutual giving, and it is open to fertility. In order to explain why contraception is not morally correct is due to the fact that it prevents life from being created within the context of the sacrament of marriage. In the Church, marriage was affirmed in the scripture of the Bible as to being that it is not good that man should be alone. It continues further to explain that marriage was established by the Creator and endowed by Him with His own sacred laws. Later on, the Catechism explains that in marriage, they are called to grow, continue in their communion through day-to-day fidelity to their marriage promise of total mutual self-giving. This implies that mutual self-giving in the context of marriage relies that both to be faithful to the promises held within marriage, and in doing so remain open to all life, and not to try to prevent it in the use of contraception. In paragraph 1652, the openness to fertility, goes into this at an even deeper level and says, by its very nature, the institution of marriage and married love is ordered to the procreation and education of the offspring, and it is in them that it finds its crowning glory. In 1566, the Roman Catechism was created to enrich the community of believers on what the Church's beliefs were and how to answer the questions about the faith. Catechisms are widely read and available to any of the public for both Catholics and non-Catholics. Northup, in another statement in regards to the decisions being made against the mandate, said, "We are stepping in to stop the anti-choice ideologues who seek to stand between low-income women and the health care that is their right under the law." Both sides seem to divide on their own beliefs. Whether those are justified or not, it is very obvious when researching the opposing sides that one is not going to simply jump over to the other side. A compromise has to be made, and the government has been trying to put together something that could benefit both. On the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops website, there have been numerous articles instructed to give the public reasons as to why the proposed compromises have not removed the burden imposed on religious freedom. The four quick reasons as to why the compromise was null and void in the eyes of the bishops was that it did not change the mandate, the religious employer exclusion still did not include many in religious organizations, the proposed accommodation for non-religious employers still did not remove the burden on religious freedom, and many with moral and religious objections remain ineligible for any exemption or accommodation. In conclusion, both arguments have aspects of values within them. For example, with the Catholic Church, they hold the value of life and its natural pursuit in marriage, but just because they are against contraception does not mean that they do not value women. In fact, Pope John Paul II wrote a letter to women wherein he stated, "Necessary emphasis should be placed on the genius of women, not only by considering great and famous women of the past or present, but also those ordinary women who reveal the gift of their womanhood by placing themselves at the service of others in their everyday lives." On the other side of this, it is fair to say that not all women who are against the restriction of reproductive rights are for restricting religious freedom. In order to compromise both sides, Congressman Doughty, in a hearing on the constitutionality of the HHS mandate, questioned Sebelius, saying, "There are only three balancing tests that I am aware of when it comes to matters of constitutional significance. There is the rational basis balancing test for economic legislation, there is the intermediate or mid-level scrutiny for gender-related constitutional issues, and finally, there is the heightened or strict scrutiny when fundamental rights are involved. Given the fact that I am sure you can see that religious liberty is a fundamental right, which of those three constitutional balancing tests were you making reference to when you said you balance things?" I propose that constitutional lawyers and HHS representatives consider organizing constitutional balancing tests for the HHS mandate, wherein both reproductive freedom and religious freedom can be addressed. This would mean they could apply exemptions but continue offering benefits for those organizations whose moral principles are not violated.